Well, hello. I am excited because one, I have a wonderful friend. We've been friends for like ever, it almost seems. Dr. Jacqueline V. Mayfield, but Dr. V. And of course, it's Valentine's Day coming up, and I wanted to talk about caregivers. And she is the expert. And Dr. V, I'm gonna call you Dr. V because see, I want to call you Jackie, but I'm gonna
Been
call you.
friends for so long, you call me Jackie, right? You get to
But
call me Jackie.
So I'm so happy. I'm so excited for you to be here because, as I was reading your bio, I realized, when Kevin, he had that accident in
Mm,
1999, then in 2000, I started taking care of my mother. And that's really
mm,
why I wanted you to come on here because caregivers are like one of my passions as well. And I wanted to bring
awesome.
you on just to kind of share your insight for those people out there who are caring for loved ones. So thank
Hmm.
you so much for
Would
joining
love
us.
to. No
So,
problem. Thanks for the
so
invitation.
before we get into some tips and strategies, I would like for you to share. You just recently wrote an ebook, A
Hmm.
Caregiver's Love Story. So what made you
Yes.
decide to write that?
Interestingly, for years, I knew that I needed to document my journey. So when I started writing the book, I thought it was going to be about my journey with my husband starting in 99. But as I started going back and really in my book, I did some research on the word caregiver,
Hmm.
like the history of where that word actually came from, definition of the word, and all of that in the book. And so I said, wow, I have to start at the beginning. And so the beginning was when I was 23 years old. Can you believe that? I had just got married, and then the year after that, my father had a stroke. And so but I never called myself a caregiver until here recently. I just said, I love my daddy and I'm going to take care of my daddy. So my journey really started in 1987. So for over 35 years, I have been a caregiver, right? I've been an advocate. And what has happened through that period of time, I have had the privilege to help other families that was overwhelmed by the process because there's so many segments and components to the process. So I help people with their strategies, and I see someone they're overwhelmed, they're a little burnt out. So I was like, as I started writing the book, it went straight to my daddy, and then that's where the topic of caregiver's love story came from. And there will be a second book. That's the one where I'll document the journey with my husband.
Wow. And as you were saying that, I was thinking about, yeah, I really didn't call myself a caregiver until like,
Mm-mm.
afterwards because it's like
Mm-hmm.
you love that person and you just want to make
Mm-hmm.
sure that they get the best treatment, they're treated
Right.
properly, they get the nutrition and all of those things. And like you said,
Right.
it can be overwhelming. You do get burnt
Mm-hmm.
out. So, what are some of the things in your mind as a caregiver that maybe, people who or find themselves in that role that maybe they need to just like maybe not do because I did learn some things that I should do and I shouldn't do and but in your perspective what should we not do maybe?
You know what's interesting? I have found that a lot of times people that are caring for others, whether it's a family member, whether it's a friend, or maybe it's someone that's a client, whether it's in home or in a long term care facility, I find that caregivers, they forget to breathe. Take a moment, stop in the moment, and take a deep breath. And I think it is so critically important to carve out quiet time because our wheels are constantly spinning. We're on the move, we're going here, there, and everywhere, but we don't schedule time to just breathe and reflect and take a moment. So I would say that's most important because as a caregiver, we have to first take care of ourselves, right? So that we can be built up and strengthened to service someone else, right? So I always say in my book, I say, Dr. V says self care is essential. Don't forget yourself. That's important. And I also encourage caregivers not to say yes to everything. Sometimes we don't know how to draw the line because maybe our plan, what we really need to focus on, is not clear for us. So we're always taking on additional tasks that we really don't have time to manage, and then we become overwhelmed. And that could even be as a caregiver. So let me share a tip. For instance, when I'm speaking to the physicians, specialists, all of those that are providing the care, let's say for my dad when he was alive, and also for my husband right now, I ensure that the social worker and that the director of nurses or the nursing supervisor, instead of, now what they'll say is, oh, we'll give you the number to the dietitian. Oh, we'll give you the number to the endocrinologist. I say, no, no, no. Let's meet on this date between these hours. And if you can bring back the information to me, compare it to historical information, and let's have a conversation about the client, the patient, so that we're all on the same page. So it's managing those conversations as well, so that you don't overdo it. Because otherwise, there's that will again, spinning, making all the calls, taking notes, making all the calls, and then you're going to report it back to the professionals. No, let's let the professionals do their job.
Mm. I love
Yeah.
that, Jackie, because one of the things I remember is when the doctor told me, he said, Janet, you really have to take care of yourself, because if you
Mm-hmm.
get the sniffles, your mother could get pneumonia because of her,
Right.
immunity
Right.
system. But then also
Exactly.
what you said about, just making sure that you manage all that information, because it was
Manage it.
coming at me. And I was so thankful that my cousin, who was a physician and
Mm,
she specialized in the treatment
there
that
you
my
go.
mother was getting, she was like almost that whenever they started talking that talk, it was an overwhelming. I was like,
Yeah.
I need to talk to you. You need to talk to them. So you're
Yeah.
right about that. So yes, making sure
Yeah.
we take care of ourselves, but also
Yes.
that help. So what are some like caregiving strategies and tips that you've discovered that have really helped you, as well as those that you work with?
Yeah. Some of the strategies that I utilize is one, when someone, okay, let me bring it to a common statement. You know how when you have a situation in your life and someone will say, do you need anything? Give me a call. If you need anything, give me a call. And most times our response is, I'm good. I'm good. So I've learned over the years not to say I'm good if I'm not good. I've learned over the years to say, and I wrote this is a portion of my book. I've learned over the years to say, you know what? I will need your help. I'm going to give you a call next Wednesday to let you know how you could actually help me. Now, if I already have a help list prepared, I may pull from that help list and say, these are the two things that I need. Are you able to handle this? I can reflect back when my taking care of my father, and that was in-home care. Um, People would ask me, you need anything? And I said, you know what? Let me start saying, yes, I do. So one lady, she kept asking me, she was a neighbor, Jackie, you need anything? Don't try to do it all yourself. I said, you know what you could do for me? I said, how about every third Thursday, could you provide me with a dozen eggs and a pound of cheese? Every third Thursday. That would take a load off. Every third Thursday, she would bring me a dozen eggs and a pound of cheese. I mean, that's so like simplistic, but
It's
it was
true.
helpful.
Yes.
So I've
Mm-hmm.
learned not to lie about my need. I call
Mm-hmm.
that not lying about my need.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And another strategy is the one that I mentioned earlier. Don't try to be the superhero. Don't try to carry all the balls. Allow the professionals to carry some of the balls and bring back the information to you as the client, because they're
Mm-hmm.
the experts. And another thing is, when you're a caregiver, if your service providers are speaking in their language and you really don't understand the care plan, and maybe there needs to be a better coordinated care plan, please communicate effectively. Please don't sit back not understanding what's being said and not asking the questions. I call myself the queen of questions. Actually, that's my middle name. V is my middle name, but I think I'm going to adapt a new name. In addition to the V, I'm going to call myself the queen of questions. Yeah, because I ask 100 million questions. So you can never ask a dumb question, a stupid question. Every question that you have as a caregiver is valid, because you have to advocate for the person that you're caring for. And then the great thing about you asking those questions, you're going to become more knowledgeable and you'll be able to support them in a better way. I do want to share this, Janet,
Mm,
if I may. There's a
mhm,
proverb that I love. It's in
mhm.
chapter 31, verses 8 and 9. And the version is the CEB version. And it says, "Speak out on behalf of the voiceless and for the rights of all who are vulnerable. Speak out in order to judge with righteousness and to defend the needy and the poor." So those that are in need and they need our care, we have to speak out and speak up for them and be advocates. And
Mm,
so I just wanted to share that. Those are some of the strategies. Is make it a
mm.
team effort. Bring everybody on board. Make it a team effort.
And you're so right, because I learned that too, Jackie, is that a friend would ask me, "Janet, what do you need?" And I was like, "I could use some eggs. I could use
Right.
some orange juice and some bread." And then another friend said, "Well, is there anything I can do?" And I said, "You know what? I need some paper for my printer and some
There you
envelopes."
go.
And it was like, and that really kind of, that little thing that they did just
Lifted.
helped so much. But you are
Mm-hmm.
right. A lot of times that language, and that's why I was so happy about my cousin, because she talked the language they were talking.
Mm-hmm.
But also, you're right. You have to manage all that stuff.
Yes.
So, and that, that really helps as well. So, before you tell everyone how they can get a copy of your ebook, I just have a question. This is a question I
Yes,
ask all
ma'am.
my guests. Is
Yes,
how do
ma'am.
you stay organized? Because you're still managing your husband's care. You've got several
Mm-hmm.
businesses you're running. You've got
Mm-hmm.
children, you've got grandchildren, you're very active in the community. And how do you just stay organized? Like, one or two tips that helps you.
Well, one or two. Okay. What I wanted to say is, as an in home, I'm not currently an in home caregiver, but when I was, I made sure that all of the supplies, the medical supplies and documentation, everything had its place. So I never had supplies and meds, like things in different places. Everything was where it should be. And I allotted space for everything to be placed where it should be. If there was a file, there was a file that said medical, and the file would even be broken down by the illness or broken down by the service that was needed. So if it was thyroid service, there was a thyroid file. So the larger file was medical, but then there was thyroid, it was ENT, ear, nose, throat, whatever the services needed to be. If it was heart care, all of that was in there. And I'm a holistic person, so I even had a section for, herbs and iridology and herbology, so to make sure that I was staying on top of that. And I'm gonna tell you, Janet, one of the great things that we have, and I use this as a strategy, we now have Google. We didn't have Google back then. So
That's
I
true.
will use Google to research as much as I can to have a better understanding and to
Hmm.
see different
Hmm.
things. But having things in their place. The other thing I was going to share is, please make sure you open your mail. I know that sounds so simplistic, but sometimes, and it could be your email or your physical mail, because sometimes you're receiving information about the person you're caring for, and it could even be for you. It could be an appointment that you need to put on the calendar for yourself. So get the information, open the mail, and begin to put those documents or emails where they need to be. And if it's something that you can't even handle that day, put it on the calendar for a week or a month out. But at least you don't forget some of the things that need to be taken care of. So I really try to keep a really tight schedule. Time management is critical. And also your budget. Make sure that the way the money is flowing, that's organized. So it's really just looking at your life in every area of your life and making sure everything is in order and in its proper place.
Hmm.
So it's easy to put your hand on, because that'll save you time, energy, remove stress, and you can kind of keep things flowing. And then it also will give you the ability to have effective communication.
Mm, mm, mm. Well, Jackie, Dr. V, I could talk to you all day, night, and everything. But
I know.
how can people connect with you and get a copy of your ebook?
I'm going to share, Jenna, can I share one more tip? This is
Yes, you can.
so important. I
Yes, you
literally
can.
was talking to a client just the other day, and they were like, "I'm drowning." And I was like, "What do you mean?" They said, "I got this, that." I said, "Okay, pause." Now, mind you, this person that I spoke with is a business strategist as well. Like, they understand how to move and shake and do things. They do things in other countries. But this day, they were drowning. And I went
Mm,
back to simplicity. I said, Did you write it all down? Or is it running around in your head? She said it's running around in my head. So as a caregiver, please write down every single thing that you're thinking about. Just write it down. Once you write it down, take that information and categorize it. After you categorize it, put dates on it. And don't put dates where you're jamming a whole lot of stuff in one day. Move it out a month. Move it out 2 months. Breathe. Breathe. I just had to say that. Because a lot of people are running around with a whole lot running around in their head, Janet, and they just need to write it down.
I'm putting that in big cap. Breathe.
Write it all down and then divide and conquer. And also, the other word, delegate. Divide, conquer, and delegate.
Wait a minute.
Look at
Divide,
that
conquer, and delegate. I'm taking notes right here.
I'm so glad I had to give that tip because that
is a wonderful
some
tip.
People begin to lose their mind, like it's too much, and they're under pressure, and they're stressed out, and like just write it down.
Okay, all right, Dr. V. Dr. V. So again, how can people connect with you and get your ebook?
So easy. Listen, all they have to do is go to drvempower.org. drvempower.org. Simple. When you go to my website, you can go to contact us. You can even key in what your needs are. I'll get right back to you. I also have an Empowering Caregivers Facebook group. Please join the Facebook group because the whole goal of that group, I want to make sure that there's information shared, resources are shared, and eventually I want to set up where we have outlets for self-care for those caregivers so they can get out and line dance. You know what I mean? And set up avenues for respite care for them, or maybe we can do it online, whatever we need to do so that a caregiver can have an opportunity to have an outlet.
And of course, I will have links to her website so you can connect with her, get her ebook, join her Facebook group, or just hire her to help you. So Jackie, Dr. V, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule.
No problem. Anything from my Janet. Thank you so much for the invitation. I really appreciate it because this topic is critically important. There are millions of people that are caring for others and they don't even understand the resources that are available to them. So thank you for this platform to share that.
And thank you for what you do.
You're welcome. Thank you.